Hello everybody, vidium here. Right now is 9:49 and it is Monday, April 18, which I'm waiting right now for the midnight launch of Mortal Kombat. I'm right now at Plaza Las Americas, which is the biggest mall in the Caribbean right now. And we are summoned today to pick up our copy of Mortal Kombat at midnight. And they're supposed to have an event today because we're supposed to be here since 10, which is the time when the whole event actually starts. So I'm gonna be around. I'm gonna check if there's people already arrived and see how we are going to enter the mall to go to the store and everything. I have gone to a lot of midnight launches here, but every time that I go, they actually don't have any kind of event. That's my fault. And this time they actually told us that there was going to be an event, so I'm going to check that out. See you later. Welcome once again to another edition of Fighter's Edge. I'm your host, vidium. The footage that you just saw is the midnight launch of Mortal Kombat. I was able to go to the midnight launch of the new Mortal Kombat game. I actually reserved it games with different gamers, other people that are hardcore fans of Mortal Kombat. Funny thing, they actually had the clerks from the GameStop actually were dressed as Mortal Kombat characters, and it was hilarious because they made it look good. No, they didn't. There was a guy that was dressed up as Striker, and we know that Striker in Mortal Kombat 3 is a little chubby, but this guy was more than chubby. He was really fat, and he was dressed up as a Striker. There was another person who was dressed as Cabal. There was a clerk dressed as Raiden. That actually looks like he took a blue shirt and ripped it up and put some white pants, white shirt, and put the blue shirt right on top of him. It did look like he. I was trying to get footage of a kid that actually appeared on the midnight release that he came dressed as a reptile, as the original reptile from Mortal Kombat 1, the ninja reptile, and he looked awesome. The thing is that I had just noticed him just for a brief moment because he was standing beside me. I just waved my head to the side, and there he was. And he looked absolutely awesome. He actually had some contact lenses. There were yellow contact lenses with orange or something like that. The thing is that his eyes actually did look like they were like reptile. Like reptile eyes, and he looked awesome. But for the time that I was getting my camera out and tried to take a picture of him or tried to take a video, he literally disappeared, just like the reptile actually does. Now, we're not going to do a review on the game here. We're going to leave that for the quality episode, for the next episode. We're going to have a full review on Mortal Kombat. But what I really want to take you is onto the trilogy in which this new Mortal Kombat is based on. If you actually start to play the story mode on the game, it actually takes you back to the first play for the first tournament of Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat 1. But as you go and play the story mode, you're going to be playing the stories between Mortal Kombat 1, Mortal Kombat 2, and Mortal Kombat 3. And exactly that trilogy is my favorite trilogy of my favorite games of Mortal Kombat. Actually, Mortal Kombat ceased to be Mortal Kombat to me ever since they actually went out from the traditional Mortal Kombat that was done between 1 all the way to 3. Ever since they actually changed into the polygon graphics and going to 3D and all this stuff, it actually ceased to be Mortal Kombat to me. It wasn't. I didn't actually feel it like it was Mortal Kombat to me. I didn't actually like it. By being on the midnight release of the new Mortal Kombat game, Mortal Kombat 9, to many gamers, or the reboot of Mortal Kombat to others, actually reminded me of the time when Mortal Kombat, the original game, came out to the home consoles, came out to the home market. And Mortal Kombat has been shrouded with controversy since it was released on the arcades. But it was on September 13, 1992, when Mortal Kombat actually made it to the home consoles. Mortal Kombat has already been out on the arcade for a whole year and is been the center of a lot of controversy. Kids love the game. All the people that were playing the game loved it. The parents were going crazy because of all the blood, the gore, the violence that the game actually had. And actually they took all this violence in video games to the Supreme Court and to the Congress and all that in the US. But that's another show. The thing is that Mortal Kombat came on 1992, September 13, a day that all gamers that were waiting, anticipating that Mortal Kombat game in home console, we were going to remember that day as Mortal Monday. Mortal Monday was the day that Mortal Kombat came to home consoles and everybody went nuts because we were able to play Mortal Kombat at home. We didn't have to go to the arcades and all that stuff. We were going to play the game for free, no more quarters. Now, the thing is that Mortal Kombat has been surrounded by controversy ever since it was released on the arcades. And it actually did happen when the game was released on consoles. Nintendo, in that way, actually looking into a way of to be out of that controversy, they decided to do the unthinkable. They actually decided to tone down the violence on the game so it can actually please the parents by eliminating the fatalities and the blood. They replaced the fatalities for finishing moves, which were kind of lame, and the blood was actually replaced by sweat. Now, the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat, we have to agree, it actually does look graphically awesome. It looks beautiful. It has great graphics, it has amazing colors, and it has a great sound and all that stuff. But the game actually suffers in all the important aspects of the game. No blood, no fatalities, and the gameplay really sucked. Now the gameplay on the Super Nintendo version is really bad. The game actually has a lot of glitches. Mortal Kombat on the arcade actually did have a lot of glitches. But the glitches on Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo actually ruins the fighting for you. It actually ruins some combos that you were trying to do. For example, I like to play a lot with Scorpion on Mortal Kombat 1, and there was this normal combo that everybody do, that you jump in with hard or low kick, and as you are reaching to your opponent, you actually hit them with a kick, and as soon as you land, you will do the Vidium spear, and it will connect, and you will bring your opponent to you, and you do whatever else actually do back in that time, which was do an uppercut. You actually did the uppercut, and you will jump back into the air towards your opponent. In my case, I actually do the uppercut and do a teleport. And as soon as you appear on the other side, you will be able to hit your opponent. And sometimes, if the timing was right, you can actually hit them back with another Vidium spear. But in the Super Nintendo version of the game, that actually does not work. As soon as you do the uppercut and you do the teleport, your opponent will actually freeze as they are standing up. You can actually see the legs going all the way up. And they actually froze into that position until your entire motion of the teleport completes. It actually ends. You can actually see Scorpion arrives on the other side of the screen with a punch out and everything, but it will not connect because your opponent is frozen in mid-air as they are standing up. So many of those glitches actually ruins the gameplay for the Super Nintendo version. Now, the Genesis version, on the other hand, we all know that the Super Nintendo always had better graphics, better sound, and better colors and all that stuff. But there's something about the Genesis that I always love, which is they actually take quality into all their games, and especially with games that are ported from the arcade. The Genesis version of Mortal Kombat actually plays a little bit more like the arcade. The Genesis version has awful graphics. It doesn't have all the animation sprites for the characters. It has awful sound. But it had all the things that actually count on the game. You had the gameplay, you could actually play most likely as the arcade, and you also have the blood and the fatalities. But they were via a code. You have to actually enter a code into the game to be able to play the arcade mode of Mortal Kombat. If you didn't actually punch in a code, the code to play the arcade mode on the game, you would actually have finishing moves like the Super Nintendo. They were different from the Super Nintendo, but they were as equally as lame as the Super Nintendo. One of the fatalities that I really hated on the Super Nintendo was Johnny Cage. All he do was put his foot right in front of you, and the opponent actually will shake. Sega actually was very smart with this thing. They actually said, no, we know that the gamers, which are the important aspect here, they're not going to like to play this game without the fatalities and the blood. That actually is what does this game cool. So we are going to punch in a code so they can actually access the arcade mode of this game. But the thing is that Sega actually thought ahead, and to assure the sales for the Mortal Kombat Genesis version, what they did is that they actually released the code before the game was out on sale. You can actually look at all the magazines, Game Pros, Electronic Game Monthly, that was available at that time. The magazines that were available at that time actually had the code in those. On the portable front, Mortal Kombat was released also on the Game Boy and the Game Gear. Now the Game Gear actually does look good. It's in color, it has the blood, it has the fatalities via a code just like the Genesis version. They actually only have 2 stages, and it has the same music over and over. But it actually was a good game to actually have on the road. On the other hand, the Nintendo Game Boy's version, God, that is so bad. That game was really bad. I actually own Mortal Kombat for the Game Boy and the Game Gear, and I have to tell you, before I actually played the Game Gear version, I played the Game Boy. And the Game Boy was absolutely awful. Really slow. You can actually hardly see anything on the screen because the graphics are completely horrendous. And it doesn't have the proper motions for the special moves for the characters. So if you're playing Scorpion, you are not going to be able to do the Vandal Spear by pressing back and punch. It doesn't work that way. The problem with the Game Boy version is that the game is so slow that when you were trying to do the motions for the special moves, you have to do them. Mortal Kombat for the Sega Genesis actually is the one to take between the Super Nintendo and the Genesis version. Really love this game, even though it doesn't have the cool graphics or the colors or the sound as the Super Nintendo. It actually allows you to play very likely like the arcade game. Now, another version of this game was actually released for Sega, and it was the Sega CD version of Mortal Kombat. Now, this game actually took a lot of time to come out. It did take a lot of time to come out, so everybody was expecting to see an arcade perfect port into the Sega CD. But instead of having an arcade perfect port, well, what we got was an enhanced version from the Genesis. It actually has all the graphics from the Sega Genesis, all the stages the same way you actually see them on the Sega Genesis. But instead, you will have the arcade soundtrack. You will have all the sounds, all the voices, and the characters will have full animation sprites, not like the Genesis, which didn't have all the animations. Another thing that actually looked good, actually they included the Mortal Monday commercial into this game and made it into a music video. It actually appears on the back.